Welcome to Lakers Central. I'm Alex. That's Vinay, and the Lakers just defeated the Suns, and so we're going to talk about that and do a complete preseason recap. Vinay, how you feeling, man?
We got the win. It was not pretty. I will say that. We were down by 21 at one point. They got blitzed pretty hard at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the game. Um, it seems like LeBron's just kind of chilling. He was doing some uncharacteristic things. He had a whole bunch of turnovers and stuff like that, but I don't really I don't really think much of it. I thought it was kind of funny. He kept trying to like drive on like four Suns, and he had
Yeah.
like three turnovers just getting stripped. And I was like, clearly he's just messing around because I know that he wouldn't do that in like a regular season game. Like he's much more like calculated with those kind of things.
Right.
Um, but it was really nice to see AD get loose today. This was probably the one game. This fourth game was probably the one game I would say out of all four where the Lakers didn't run too much. Like they didn't run that many designed actions. Like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it was just kind of take the ball and go. Especially when LeBron and AD were on the court, they just like take the ball and do whatever you want to do with it.
Right.
And AD was on fire. It was crazy how quickly he filled up the box score, and just like I can't remember if it was last game or the game before that. It was last game. Like Lakers play serious defense for about 5 minutes, and whatever lead you think you have is pretty much going to be erased.
Yep.
And it's not just like their shooting; it's their defense. Their defense is so good. You'll go like 6, 7, 8 straight plays where you score nothing, and they get like a layup every single time, or three, or a good quality shot, and all of a sudden a 20-point lead is erased to nothing. So we may be in a situation where they know they have that switch, and they know when they can flip it on and flip it off.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. The way the game started, it was pretty ugly, man. Like I at first thought kind of like, all right, last preseason game, do they really want to be here? And LeBron had a bunch of uncharacteristic turnovers, it felt like, and he was missing some easy baskets, and some easy layups around the basket. And I'm just like, all right, just get these guys out of here and then get them ready for Tuesday. But it was really pleasant to see them fight back. And regardless if LeBron James or Anthony Davis is on the floor, I always want to see what everybody does, the players that don't get a lot of attention like they do. But they fought back. And you're right. AD finally went off in the preseason. Um, he hit 6 or 7 3 pointers. And so I was watching the game with my wife, and like we were talking about, Anthony Davis, and she reminded me of when I was out. We were at a lounge in the day that the Anthony Davis trade went through, and I was super happy. And my sister in law was like, "Is he really that good?" And I explained like, "Yeah, he really is." And so my wife was like, we're watching the game, and she's just like, "He's good, but like, how come? Like, what makes him so spectacular?" And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he hit this one 3 pointer, like that step back, and I was like, that's what makes him spectacular. Like, there's no
Yeah.
other guy his size in the NBA that can do what he does. He is uniquely gifted at 6'10", 6'11", to go on the block, to hit the mid range, to do step back threes. There's no one like him, and I think the guy is just a monster. And so it was good to see him get off. LeBron had a LeBron game. I mean, probably not great by his standards, but 20 points, six rebounds and 4 assists. They played fine, and I'm glad they pulled this win out. I want to give KCP some love, man. Like I didn't see
Yeah.
a lot of love for KCP on the TL tonight. Um, 15 points. I think he hit the first three of the game for the Lakers.
Yes.
He played well. So
He, he has like momentum breaking threes. Like I've noticed that like sometimes some of the threes that he takes when he's like going in transition or like out of a design set or something like that,
yep,
like Lakers will like I don't know, like the other team will go like on a 7-0 run or something like it. They'll be like in the middle of like a run and KCP will just hit a three and all it just saps away all the momentum and stuff like
yeah,
that. It's really good. He's starting to go into like this like I put my head down and just go do my job
yep,
like mode now with him, and it feels like he's really gotten really comfortable playing next to Bron and AD, and he
hmm
knows when those two need they need some shooting help or when they need like a bailout guy. And he seems to just kind of respond pretty well to it. So it's good, man. He's clocks in, clocks out, does his job. I mean, he'll streak out for a couple of easy layups. He'll be active on the defensive end. It's solid stuff, man. He's this was probably like his best game, right? Out of the entire preseason so far.
Yeah,
So he's been real solid.
he looked comfortable. I think we won the championship. He played a huge role in that happening. He just looks like a guy that comes out there, does his job. You don't. No one. It's funny, like for the last couple of years, there was just so much talk about KCP on the timeline, and then I was watching him play tonight, and everyone's talking about Taylor Horton Tucker. They're obviously talking about LeBron and Anthony Davis. There's Kuzma chatter, Caruso chatter, and I'm like, is anyone talking about KCP? Like,
Yeah,
the dude he's playing well right now, and so shout out to him, and then obviously Taylor Horton Tucker. He played well tonight. I mean, he didn't get the minutes and things that he was getting earlier in the preseason, but
yeah, yeah,
he went at Devin Booker a couple times, man. And like I said this on the last, I don't know if it was the pregame or postgame last time, but his layup package, he's great at getting to the rim and getting these like crafty shots up.
yeah. Absolutely. I think probably like one of his best, absolute like best qualities is just his nose for the rim. His ability to
Hmm.
get to the rim is really great. Um, I'd say I'd say probably for both him, not so much him. Probably Kuzma was a little bit worse, but for both of those guys, it seems like they had to kind of give way to LeBron and AD tonight because they were playing more minutes, and AD just was on fire. They're just giving him the
Right.
ball every single time that they could. KCP, I mean, you just look at the points that they chipped in, right? Like KCP had 15, Talon finished with 12, Montrez had 8. So it's just like you had like a lot of AD finished with 35, Braun had 20, even though he only played like a half basically.
Right.
But everybody sort of chipped in different ways. So like even though the Lakers were down by like 20, 21 or something like that, it was like equal parts everything. Like Caruso played today. Caruso looked great.
Hmm.
He was jamming up the lanes and stuff like that. We actually saw the Lakers close out, I think, with Caruso and they ran a lineup of Caruso, Tucker, Kuzma, Markeith, and Montrez. I think was the five that they ran at one point. And then eventually, I think they pulled Caruso out, and then they ended up pulling Kuzma out. But like that was a pretty good lineup. That lineup was the one that like basically took the lead back to some degree and stuff like that. So I it's a very interesting situation for the Lakers to be in. We didn't play with Dennis Schroeder today, so I'm really really curious to see how they carve out some of these minutes. You know, the Spurs a few seasons ago came up with like this strategy where they wouldn't play anybody more than 30 minutes a game.
Hmm.
And I'm not quite sure that's the direction that the Lakers will go in, but I will say that the Lakers played Anthony Davis about 30 minutes today, right under 30 minutes today. He put up 35, which is absurd. He put up
Yep.
35 in 29 minutes. He's not going to go 6 or 7 every single night from three,
Right.
but is it possible that maybe, Anthony Davis and LeBron only, play about 32, 34 minutes at the very most? Like, it's possible. They only played 34 minutes last year. So, whether it's blowouts or not, if the Lakers don't care about wins and losses like that,
Right.
they may be okay with keeping those guys at 30 minutes. Maybe they start ramping them up, an extra 3, 4 minutes once midseason comes by and stuff like that. So I think the minutes early on are probably going to be there for Tucker, and they'll probably
Hmm.
be there for some of these other guys because it's hard. Like I'm thinking about it, I'm like, how do we fit Tucker into this lineup? It's not exactly going to be easy. So I don't know. Maybe some of the older guys like the Markieff Morrises and
Hmm.
the Wesley Matthews, they won't mind their minutes being chopped into a little bit because they know they're vet minimum guys. They know that their
Right.
number is going to get called in the playoffs, and there'll be set rotations. So maybe regular season minutes don't matter to them as much. Um, Marquis played 15 minutes today. Wesley played 20 minutes today. Like most of the bench guys played between I would say about 15 minutes and 20 minutes. Like outside of maybe the core rotation guys, which are probably 4 or 5 guys. Like, is Marc Gasol going to be playing 30 minutes? He played 21 today. Probably not. They're
Right.
probably hoping that they can play well enough with Harrell and
Mm-hmm.
Markeith at the five that they can distribute those minutes. So I think they'll be fine. I'm just curious to see how they fit in Horton Tucker. That Horton Tucker Caruso combo looks kind of good. Those guys are those two look like a problematic pairing. Both ways. So I am very curious to see how they fit those two in.
And that's what we talked about, I think, in the pregame about how they might look together now that Caruso's back on the floor. And so Frank has a good problem. For me, man, like I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the scores by the quarters, and the Lakers, they did get down big early in the game. But just like I think it was, I don't know if it was last game, like when they wanted to play defense, they turned it on. And so they were outscored by 18 in the first, but then they outscored Phoenix by 5 in the second and then by 12 in the third. And Phoenix played their starters in the fourth quarter. Like LeBron and Anthony Davis were
Yeah,
on the bench at that point, and Booker's still out there, and I'm like, what what's Monty
Bro,
doing?
they were full court pressing LeBron. I was like, why are you guys full court pressing LeBron? You guys are up
Yep.
20. I was like, what is going on? And thanks to Omar for asking the question. He was the one who asked the question about how do we fit THT into this rotation, which is why I was talking about the minutes that he gets. But I I have no idea. Phoenix was playing. Has Phoenix not won a game or something like that in the preseason?
I think that they're like 0-4 or 0-3 or something
Okay,
in
that's
preseason.
okay. So that's why they were okay. That makes sense. I was just like, why are they playing so hardcore on defense? Javon Carter's picking up guys at three
Yeah.
quarters of the court. He's face guarding Taylor Horton Tucker at the end of the game. I'm like, are you serious? You don't want him to catch the ball? All right.
I mean, I was watching the game, man, and I'm sure the players were thinking this, but when they couldn't get the score, like the score in the arena to match the score on television, and they couldn't figure it out, and I'm like, come on, it's preseason. Just get this thing over with. Let these guys go back. LeBron already had his feet in the ice bucket. Anthony Davis did. So my wife pointed this out to me, but did you notice Anthony Davis clipping his toenails on the sideline?
Yeah, yeah. It's, I think Pickup Hoop, the Laker fan Pickup Hoop, he posted the video of him doing it. He like took off his shoe, like his foot's all wrapped up, and he's like clipping his toes on the side. And I was like, man, these guys don't give a damn about no damn preseason game. He got out here clipping toes. Hey, he started lining it up after he clipped his toenails, so maybe that's the key to his success.
So let me and I want to make sure I pronounce this right. Shazeb Aman Imam. I mean, look, he's saying that there's some fans got frustrated with Kuzma's defensive efforts tonight. Do you think that he had some lapses, or
Yeah,
was
I think I don't know if it was lapses or if it was just a bad assignment. Kuzma is not built to chase guys like
oh
Devin Booker around
right?
screens.
Yep.
If it's a bigger guy like maybe Paul George or like Kawhi trying to take those sort of screens, because they're bigger and they're not able to take some of those screens as well. Like they're a little more lumbering when they go around.
Hmm.
Kuzma can keep up with those guys. I don't think he has the ability to keep up with a guy like Devin Booker. I think Vogel just wanted to try it out just to
Yeah.
see how he would do on him. And in the first half, he wasn't doing very well at all. He would just get he would get hammered by the screen, and Devin Booker would basically get like a either an easy pull up three or he would like kind of get into an area where
Hmm.
Gasol was kind of stuck with who he was having to defend. So um, I wouldn't say it was defensive lapses because defensive lapses usually means that like he's forgetting where his man is and stuff like that. So
Right.
I don't think he ran into that situation. I think he's not equipped to chase guys around screens. I think guys like Caruso, guys like KCP, even guys like Wes Matthews are better suited for that
Hmm.
because there's a technique to that. Like knowing how to navigate around screens, um, and like how you can just kind of slide across the defender's body to get
Right.
around screens. It's a technique. One of the guys that I've seen, very few guys I've seen that are like the very elite defenders are the ones that are able to do it. Like Wes, if you watch Wesley Matthews' technique when he tries to slide around the screen, it's top notch stuff. It's incredible. Um, Avery Bradley last year was by far one of the best screen shedders. That's what I call it. Kind of like how an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman pass rusher sheds a block. Like shedding screens is a pretty crazy technique, and so Kuzma doesn't have that skill. He's never had that skill. So making sure that he's being then we saw this problem also in the playoffs too as well when he had to chase around like Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero. He can't chasing guys around those kinds of screens. That's just not his game.
Yep.
Um, but as it relates to, yeah, I would say today was probably the game out of all four games was the game where like his rhythm was like off. But
Kuzma's.
again, yeah, Kuzma's rhythm was off. But I would say again, like it felt like when he was playing next to Braun and AD, it felt like they're the Lakers' whole offensive game plan is just like let them do what they want to do. Like
Right.
we're just ramping them up to the pregame. We already know what you guys can do. Kuzma's
Mm-hmm.
already had 3 games. Like they ran almost no sets for Kuzma when LeBron and AD were on the court. He actually had a whole bunch of play. He had a couple of nice plays where he was the guy who made the skip pass to the person
Yeah.
who eventually made the shot. So it's good that he's still doing that. But they never really ran real design sets for him. And then I think I want to say like in the fourth when they did, it was just like he had one play where it was one design set that was really good. Then he had another one where he just dribbled way too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up tweeting about that. So, like he's he's a positive feedback loop guy. And I don't know if folks don't know what that term is. It's just like the more positive stuff, small positive things that happen, like he gets a pass on a cut.
Right.
Like there's a lot of cuts that he made earlier in the first quarter. He never saw a pass. Like, and that's fine. It's not a big deal. Um, but the more the small things go in his favor, if he's getting passes on cuts, gets an easy layup and stuff like that, the better it actually helps him as the game kind of goes on. And that's just kind of the way his rhythm builds and stuff like that. So, um, do I think it's going to be the norm? Probably not. Uh, but it's always, I mean, that's the coups that you kind of expect, the good and the bad. But I would say that the stuff that we saw out of him in those first 3 games is a very, very good sign towards Vogel understanding like what he can do if he runs them in these design sets and whatnot.
And I'll add this to what Vinay just mentioned. Look, Devin Booker gets hot. Devin Booker can get hot against Paul George and Kawhi. Like
Yeah, yeah,
this would not be. This is not the matchup where I would look at with Kuzma and say, "Oh, well, he didn't do his job." It's
yep.
Devin freaking Booker. All right, so Vinay, we have
I
a
mean,
bunch of questions.
Michael Bridges was like making threes like
Right.
he was Ray Allen this game too. Like every time LeBron would like take like because he was assigned on LeBron. LeBron was his guy, and
Mm-hmm.
LeBron would like obviously he wouldn't rotate to Michael after like 6 passes. He'd be like, all right, if he takes a three, he takes a three. He wouldn't even close out, and Michael was hitting all of them. That's why they went up because they were just hitting an absurd amount of threes. So I wouldn't take it too much as an indication of like whether they're good or they're not good, that sort of thing.
No, I would agree. And Dr. Papo gave us this question, and we talked about this. One, thanks for your question, Dr. Papo. Well, we talked about this in the preseason or in the pregame show earlier, but he asked, "Do you guys think that we might need to add a big center for the regular season, seeing Smart can't jump, and isn't that going to affect a lot of second chance opportunities for the Lakers?" Vinay talked about it earlier. He does think that we might look at a center. Look, Mark is not Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee, guys,
Yeah,
and
he's not the athlete. Yep.
you can clearly see that he is a very good player still at this stage of his career. But if you're looking for kind of that upward mobility, guys blocking shots, the Lakers may have there may be a slight issue with that because Trez is undersized. Obviously, if they're going to play Markeith at the center, he's still undersized as well, and then Gasol can't really get off the floor. So it might be nice to get another guy that can kind of just get up and block some shots. The question is, who is that guy? Because I don't know right now who's available on the market, and it doesn't look like the Lakers are keen to add anybody anytime soon anyway. So maybe a center gets released later on. Maybe JaVale gets released in the buyout market later on. Who knows, right? I mean, stranger things have happened. But Vinay, I know you mentioned this earlier in the pregame, but is there anyone out there that you can think of right now?
Shoot, I don't think there's anybody that I can think of off the top of my head, to be honest. Like you've mentioned Deadman before. I'd have to
Right.
actually look it up to see who's actually available. I think Ian Mahimi is available. He used to play for the Pacers.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who else. Centers have been getting paid this offseason, so like especially the big guys. So let me see here. I'm just gonna quickly pull it up. since we're on a live stream so that I can give the answer. So, yeah, Ian Mahimi is there.
Hmm.
Kyle O'Quinn is apparently there. Dwayne Dedman's there. Joking, no, I think he retired, and then that's about it. There's really not that many. There's not really that many folks, or not that many guys that are
Well,
available like that. So you're gonna have to wait till the buyout market. We may not have anybody right now.
and we know that, Pau Gasol, it sounds like he wants to come back and play one more year if he can. If the
Mm-hmm.
Lakers were to even look at him, he's not going to get up off the floor and block shots away to White and JaVale did. So right now, guys, I would just say that this team probably is set, for what it's going to be for the foreseeable future. If someone gets bought out or some kind of trade becomes available, I'm sure Rob will look into it. But um, I'd table those expectations for a high flying center, at least for the time being. Um,
Yeah, they'll. I imagine that they'll try and work, because you have to remember the way that we always look at this sort of situation is based on who the Lakers play, and a lot
mhm.
of teams are going to be trying to play small ball centers because that's the new wave of doing stuff. So if the way we want to look at it is always the same way that we looked at it last year, we never looked at JaVale and Dwight individually. We looked at that center position as a
Yeah.
platoon. So we just need to get productive minutes out of that center position, whether it's defense, offense, whatever it is. And there certainly may be some games where the Lakers don't really need to have a rim defender in the same vein as like Anthony Davis. They
Right.
just need to have a body, there. So I think they'll be fine, barring any significant injuries. They should be okay, I would imagine.
And just to remind everybody, we do have Anthony Davis on the team. He is the
Yeah,
ultimate
yeah.
big man defender that can fly around and block shots. You saw it tonight; he was incredible. So we'll see what the Lakers decide to add. This one's from Bob. Do you think that Kuz will keep his rhythm coming off the bench?
That is the what do we think Kuzma's range is? $10 to $15 million. That is
I'd
the
say
10
so.
to
Yeah.
15. Thank you for the question, Bob. That is the $10 to $15 million question. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep his rhythm coming off the bench. Like I said, he's like a positive feedback loop guy. So like if he doesn't get going well early, or if he doesn't get his number called in and see the ball going through the rim for himself early,
Hmm.
whether it's just running in transition, getting an easy layup, if it starts off difficult for him, I feel as though it gets worse for him. But if it starts off well for him, he tends to do better because he knows that the ball is always going to come back to him. What we saw in the first three games was his number got called a lot. But
Hmm.
when his number got called, it was in designed action. That's the key word. As long as it's designed, I think he has a good chance of being successful on the court. When we ask Kuzma to do stuff like in a pinch, like, hey, just score for us, we need something badly, things don't go well for the Lakers because it's just not his style. Like Taylor Horton Tucker is probably better for something like that. I don't think the Lakers will ask Kuzma to do that anymore. I think they're just going to ask him to be a 3-and-D guy. Just cut to the rim, run some of this designed action that we
Hmm.
have set up for you, make the right pass, take the layups. Don't play outside of what you are. And if he can do that, I think he can be successful. It's when he tries to go outside of that which will be difficult. So to answer the question completely, it's really going to depend on um, like who's on the floor with him. Like if
Right.
it's Gasol and Gasol setting him up with cuts, or Schroeder or Montrez, and they're all passing the ball around and stuff like that, he may be fine. But it's really, really hard to tell because we don't know who's going to take the shots. Is Schroeder going to show up and just start taking all the shots? Are they going to feed it to Montrez every single time? What happens? So that's kind of it's hard to tell. But I think he may have some games where he does really well, and I think he may have some games where he's kind of quiet, but his plus minus or whatever still looks good. And really that's all we can really ask for. We just need good minutes out of him.
Shazeb is asking us another question. He hopes that we don't revert back to LeBron Anthony Davis ISO post up when the season starts. Shazeb, I would say that when you've got guys like Anthony Davis and LeBron James that can go ISO, you utilize it. There are times when the Lakers' offense went stagnant last year. Now there should be less of that this year, just given
Yeah,
the makeup of the team. But those guys being so good at what they do, you're gonna probably see some isolation. No, it's not '90s isolation or early
yeah,
mid 2000s isolation, but when the Lakers get down late in the shot clock and they need a basket, you saw Anthony Davis do it tonight. I mean, like those guys hit tough shots, and so
yeah,
I don't think we'll see a
absolutely.
whole lot of that. I think this team is too good. I know Frank Vogel isn't known to be like this great offensive mind, but I think he did a good enough job last year that I think you can expect a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I would say even when we watched the game today, you saw Gasol try and run like dribble handoffs with LeBron and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they were definitely trying to do different stuff. And I think AD was probably the only guy who was doing like the most isolation that I saw.
Yeah.
It seems as though with all this better passing and stuff like that that we have, on this team. It seems as though the Lakers are going to be trying to run more design sets for their guys. There was some sneaky stuff that they insert in there that like the person who had the ball missed the cutter, or like there was an opening, there was a window of opportunity where they didn't make the pass for an easy score. So um, I don't think there will be that much isolation. The only way that there's going to be that much a lot of isolation early in games is if the Lakers run into a team that switches everything at the
Right.
beginning of the game. Then you'll see more isolations and pick them. But look, man, like when you have LeBron, it's sometimes it's just based on what he feels like. There may be a game where he just feels like he wants to come down and isolate every play,
Mm-hmm.
and AD may want to do the same thing. And if that's what he wants to do, then that's what we're going to do. So um, it's outside of when it's just them
Right.
is what we want to look at, because that's where the Lakers struggled last year.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier as well, but Shazeb asked us just thoughts on Dennis starting, and I don't know how likely it is. It's early, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that lineup will look like on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's hard to tell exactly what it'll look like. I would say he probably is going to start. We saw what happened today. Like even in a preseason game, teams are going
Yeah.
to try and full court press LeBron to get the ball out of his hands. I think Dennis just kind of makes that easier for LeBron, to be honest. If LeBron wants to go to the post early against a matchup or something like that, he can do that. Same thing for AD, or if he wants to come off of a screen and create some sort of misdirection. Or actually, I think there was a play where LeBron actually was a screener, like in a pick and roll play, if I remember correctly. So like stuff like that, it's possible. I think Dennis may probably start. I wouldn't be surprised. So in the second half, they started that KCP West lineup,
Yep.
right? The one that I was talking about that
Yep.
I thought that they may run. So that actually ended up being a really good lineup. They
Mm-hmm.
adjusted their pick and roll coverages with Gasol, instead of just having whoever got screened chase Devin Booker around. They had Gasol like show the double team, so Devin Booker had to pick the ball up and then he'd recover back. So it actually was really good. So you can see how that synergy of from last season with the Danny Green, Avery Bradley back, or the Danny Green KCP group works with West and KCP as well. It's just going to depend on what the Lakers prioritize. Like if they want to come out, playing really, really great defense, they may start West and KCP. But if they
Right.
want, to get Braun and AD going early, which they may try to do against the Clippers on opening night, they may start Dennis, they may start Schroeder. Because I mean, the Clippers like to put Pat Beverly on Braun, and when they
Right.
put Pat Beverly, he's pressing Braun full court. So might as well give it to Dennis Schroeder, right? And then if Pat is still on Braun, then Braun can just go post him up and take layups all night for all week here. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, tonight the Lakers started off so slow they probably could have used Dennis just in that
Mm-hmm.
starting lineup. So against the Clippers, I suspect that there's a good shot that Schroeder starts with that team, and it's just going to depend. I mean, I think your point is well taken about how the Clippers like to pressure LeBron coming up and down the court. Having that other ball handler out there will probably give him alleviate a lot of that pressure off of him, and give another guy that can score. Because KCP, he had a good game tonight, but you're not going to get 15, 20 points out of Marcus All. You might every now and again, but that's just not what his
Yeah.
role is. You know, I think he starts on Tuesday, and then they'll just go from there. So I did want to ask you, man, about Montrez. So I've been watching him a lot this preseason, and he does his ISO thing. He can beat guys off the dribble,
Mm-hmm.
but he still doesn't look completely comfortable either. And I don't know if that's just a lineup issue because the guys are in and out and there's different rotations, but he does not look like as great as he looked last season. And
He
I
doesn't
think
look
he
like
will
Clipper
get there.
Montrez.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but what do you think about him?
So I think the Lakers haven't run very much pick and
Pick
roll
and
with
roll.
him.
Hmm.
Yeah, they've let him isolate a lot. I think him and Lou Williams had a very good connection as players, and so they kind of knew how to play with each other. I'm I wonder if he. So there have been a couple plays where they've run that pick and roll with like Taylor Horton Tucker and Montrez,
Hmm.
and it seems like there's been a couple of times where Taylor's found Montrez for wide open dunks, just because he's able to draw like the second guy or freeze the defending big. Um, but they really haven't run that much pick and roll with him, so that's kind of his bread and butter outside of the isolations. And I think it's maybe the matchup that's probably caused this issue. The backup bigs for the Suns have been tall guys, like big and tall guys. And
Hmm.
so Montrez usually tries to face up those kind of guys and then take them to the rim. And so when he does that is when he like usually causes issues for the opposing team because he's drawing a bunch of shooting fouls and stuff like that. But you know, one of the things that tends to happen when you put on a Laker jersey is you don't necessarily the big guys don't necessarily get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the calls. We've seen Anthony Davis get beat up repeatedly. We've seen LeBron get beat up repeatedly. Um, you don't get the same kind of love from the refs because we're the Lakers. That's just kind of
Right.
how it works. I think there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period for him. He used to draw a ton of shooting fouls when he used to go to the rim for the Clippers. He may or may not do that with the Lakers. Not because he's not doing what he did with the Clippers in a Lakers jersey, just because of the way the refs see it. No, this is the Lakers coming into town. This is a guy in a Lakers jersey trying to overwhelm somebody else. Um, the refs do kind of like swallow their whistles at times when it comes to that sort of stuff. But I think he'll figure it out. He'll work his way through the situation and stuff like that. Um, Ideally, if he gets matched up on a bigger guy, they should try to get him a little bit away from the paint and get him to do that face up isolation against his defender because he can put the ball on the floor and he can get by guys with a first step, especially big dudes.
And I think that's what G Skills is saying. Just more time, right? Like it's a compressed
Yep.
schedule. More time with LeBron and Dennis on the floor with Trez. You'll probably see more of that pick and roll. They'll get comfortable, and he'll start rolling the way he did last year with the Clippers. Um, and then my man Bentley, let me bring his comment in here. Bentley said the AD's three ball looks better. I mean, look, it did this game. He had 6 3 pointers, so he looked amazing from deep this game. Um, what do you think is a reasonable percentage for him to get to this year? You think he can get to 37%, or is that too asking too much?
I mean, if he gets to 37%, like that would be amazing. As close as he can get to 40 would be great. I mean, the Lakers as a team, if they can hit even league average from
Right.
three, they're going to start blowing teams out. Like this was a team that wasn't shooting well from three, and we were still blowing some teams out. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
they can start hitting league average from three, they're definitely going to be blowing a lot of teams out. So, um, today was amazing to see him shoot. It felt like he was in like a really good groove. I think that's the reason why he stayed for like an extra 9 minutes in the game. I don't think he was supposed to play more than like 24 minutes, the same amount
That's
that Braun played.
that's what
But
they
I
said
think
on
he
the
just
national broadcast, like
oh,
25
is that what they
minutes.
said? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was watching Spectrum. Well, I watch games on mute anyway, so I never hear anything. But it felt like yeah he got some extra minutes. Vogel let him play a few extra minutes because he was in such a groove. But it's funny because last year we were complaining that he was shooting too many jumpers because he was missing so many of them, and this year we're like, well, maybe. And I think Frank Vogel was the only guy like who kept telling him he's like, no, 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 just keep shooting. I want you to shoot like I think he told me he wanted to shoot like 5 or 6 threes a game is was like the minimum that he wanted him to shoot,
Wow.
and I mean it showed up in the playoffs. We had a game
Mm-hmm.
winning three in the playoffs, and so it's if his confidence is going up, then that's great. I saw a couple people on the timeline saying that now that the pressure of winning a ring is off of his back, like he can just play like freely now.
Right.
And I was like, hey, you know what? You may be right. Like that confidence may be there because he doesn't feel the pressure. It's house money for him now, and he's got his long term contract. He's good to go, so he can play however he wants to play. Um, if he hits, I have low expectations when it comes to anything really. So uh, when it comes to shooting threes, if they can hit 35%, because I think that's like the league average, you hit 35%, bro.
Mm-hmm.
We're blowing some of these teams out, and if the bench can keep up their scoring like we expect it to, some of these games are going to be big blowouts.
No, I completely agree. Like, I'd like to see him get to 37%. I mean, look, if he can get to 35%, I think that that's fine, given everything else that he can do on the court. He doesn't need to shoot like some of the other guys in the NBA, some of the smaller guys. So I think he's fine there. And Bentley's asking us, at what point do we think AD and LeBron will get back up to 30 plus minutes a game? Honestly, man, if this team is rolling, there's no reason for them to get up to 30 plus minutes a game until to get closer to the playoffs or in the playoffs. Like,
Yeah,
if LeBron is playing 35 minutes a night, which even this past season I don't think he even played that much, but if they're playing
yeah, I
35
agree.
to 37 minutes a night, then that means there might be injuries or there's something else going on with the Lakers. But
Yeah.
I'd say they need to be just around 30 to 32 minutes and really no more than that.
Yeah, I would agree. You have to remember the Lakers never didn't even play three full. LeBron and AD didn't even play three full quarters of basketball last season. I think they both averaged right about 34 minutes a game, and I think AD
Hmm.
may have been at 35 minutes a game. So their numbers are already pretty close to 30 minutes overall. Um, they may hit 30. My guess has been that they're gonna average 30 minutes out the gate. Uh, the main thing I think is going to be is that win or loss, whether they're down big or they're up big or whatever it is, I don't think they're going to break 30 minutes for a while. In my opinion, I don't think
Right.
so. I would be very surprised if they just came out the gate playing 34 to 35 minutes, but because I don't think the pressure of wins and losses is on them right now.
No.
So, and they're just going to prioritize health and chemistry. So, I think 30 minutes is probably a reasonable expectation for how many minutes they're going to play during a season for most of the season. And I think assuming that there's no injuries or anything like that, once we get to like mid-season, those minutes will start ramping up to like 32, 34, 35. I don't think Vogel wants either of those guys to play more than like 36 minutes, which is basically three quarters of basketball.
No, I couldn't have said it better. I think they're going to be right around 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
So Clint sent in a question. He said, "Whose minutes does THT take from?" Clint, that's an excellent question, man, because no one expected him to be this good this early in his career. So we brought in Dennis Schroeder. I figure Schroeder would play 30 minutes a game, somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes. Alex Caruso, same thing. Then you've got KCP and Wes. What am I leaving out a guard? Well, LeBron plays a lot of minutes in the guard position, so I don't know, Vinay. Who's he taking minutes from?
So the rotation so far in the preseason has been THT coming in for basically whoever is the anybody from 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, right? Or one of the big wings. And that's entirely dependent on the defensive personnel that's on the floor. So the Suns ran a lot of wings so THT could play. The Clippers off the bench also ran a lot of wings so THT could play.
Yep.
He was actually the primary backup point guard even before Alex Caruso for Dennis Schroeder. So if we look at the point guard position, right, let's say Dennis Schroeder is starting, okay? And let's say
Mm-hmm.
he's starting next to KCP. That means that his direct backup for Dennis Schroeder's direct backup is either Alex Caruso or based on this roster, it's going to be Taylor Horton Tucker. So he's not taking minutes necessarily from. So I think somebody in the Shazeb said that he may be taking minutes from Kuzma. The problem is that those two don't play the same exact position. So because they don't play the same exact position, they don't defend the same type of guy. That's the reason why it doesn't make sense that he would take his minutes because Kuzma's size is something that the Lakers do need on the perimeter, depending on who they play. If they don't play a team that has, if they play a team that puts like 2 or 3 6'4", 6'5" guys off the bench or mixes in with their starters off the bench. I'll give you an example, okay? So like the Blazers like to run Dame, who's a smaller guard, and CJ McCollum, who's like 6'5", right? But they have a guy that comes off the bench. Oh my God, he's a clutch guy. I forgot his name. Shoot, let me pull his name up because I
For
had it
Portland,
right on the.
who did it?
I'm sorry, who?
You said Portland has a clutch guy,
Gary Trent,
Gary Trent
right?
Jr.
Gary Trent Jr. So Gary Trent Jr. is also not a big guy. So like, but they bring him off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So if you bring in Gary Trent Jr. and what they want to do is bring him off the bench and mix him in with CJ, or he's like the first guy off the bench who plays next to Dame and CJ as they move around lineup. That's like a situation where I could see Taylor Horton Tucker coming in for the Lakers, and them playing like Taylor Horton Tucker and Schroeder and maybe yeah, these guys got it right in the chat. They're all saying
Yep.
Gary Trent and THC and Alex Caruso. Like that's a lineup where I could see all three of those guys playing together. And then Kuzma only comes in for like the stretch four position
Mm-hmm.
or a small ball, like next to a small ball five. Um, because the only true big wing defenders that we have are Wes Matthews and Kuzma. Kuzma is going to be valuable for that specific purpose, right? Because Markieff Morris isn't going to chase guys around the perimeter. He's more built to deal with guys that are on the
Yep. On the block.
lower block and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So it's not that Horton Tucker is going to take Kuzma's minutes. It's all dependent on who's on the floor for the opposing team and what the Lakers need. Um, so that's the way I would see it. I think it's going to be like by committee. I think he's going to take
Yeah.
some of like Schroeder's minutes. He's going to take some of Kuzma's minutes. He's going to take some of Caruso's minutes. He's going to take some of Braun and AD's minutes. So they'll find a way to allocate all that sort of stuff. I mean, to be honest, he only needs like what, maybe 15 minutes 15 to 20 minutes to be
At the
successful.
most. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way I see it. So I don't think there's any direct one person that he'll do it with. I think Vogel will look at it and say, okay, we need THT right now, so we're going to put him in the game. And it seems like everybody buys into it. I wouldn't be surprised if Wes Matthews doesn't get as many minutes as we think he does. And the same thing for Markieff Morris. They're older guys. They know exactly why the Lakers brought them on there for,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not regular season basketball, So I don't think anybody's going to sweat that too much.
Ray asked, "Do we think that the Lakers are going to go 12 deep, 11 to 12 deep this season?" I think they could in the regular season, and I think they will just because it's a quick turnaround. You want LeBron and Anthony Davis to rest. Also, kind of to relate it back to who THT will take minutes from. He didn't play a lot in the playoffs. Obviously, he was a rookie, but KCP played a ton, right? Like West played for the Bucks. Like there are some guards on this team that probably you want to ease in slowly. Schroeder, I think Schroeder. What did they make it to the second round? No, they made it to just the first round. They lost.
Yeah, only first round. Yeah.
OKC. Yeah, I mean, so there's some guys on the roster that he's going to take minutes from, but 11, 12 deep regular season, I would expect that.
Yeah, I would expect that too. And I want to say that they probably went about 12 deep in the regular season last season too, as well, depending on what the matchups ended up being and stuff like that, and just kind of how like Braun and AD felt,
Yeah.
in unique circumstance, condensed season. I don't expect Braun to play in any of the back-to-backs. I would be genuinely surprised if he played in any of the back-to-backs. AD may also. I would be surprised if he did or if he didn't. So there's going to be minutes there. Like there's going to be huge chunks of minutes, and I want to say the Lakers played double-digit amount of back-to-backs this season, or close to that number. So there's going to be minutes available for these guys to kind of show out. And we've got a ton of nationally televised games, and I'm sure some of those are back-to-back games. So these guys are going to get on the national stage sooner than later.
We'll probably get ready and close out in a few minutes, guys. So get your questions in. Are you surprised they went 4-0 in the preseason?
Nah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I am surprised that our young guys played as well as they did. I thought they would be like the most rusty out of the whole. Like I genuinely didn't think. I was expecting the worst from Kuzma. I was gonna be like, oh my god, this guy's gonna play his up and down basketball, and like it's gonna be a nightmare to defend him the whole season. But he was good. Horton Tucker being great was awesome. I'm not surprised that they won. but I am surprised that they look. Some of the things that we were concerned that we would have to really work on during the season, they seem like they've already kind of gotten it together to some degree. I think if I had to put my conspiracy hat on, I would say that the Lakers know exactly what they're good at, and the stuff that they're not good at is what they're trying to run or what they're going to be trying to run in the regular season. So if they look junky on their communication or they miss some of their passes, like there was a play where Montrez had at the top of the key and it was a design cut to the middle for Kuzma, and he
Hmm.
like threw it like 3 feet over Kuzma's head and out of bounds or something like that.
Yep, he
Like some of
did.
that stuff, I was just like, this is a design play, and then it seems like they're just testing it out on the fly. It seems like that's what they're doing because some of those games, the second Clippers game where Marc Gasol was just diming up everybody on the floor,
Hmm.
like some of those games, I was just like, these guys know what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And it seems like they're just working on what doesn't work so they can
Right.
improve that, get that better, tighten it up. So that's the way I see it.
Alex Fines sent in this question and said, "Is this the year LeBron starts living in the post much more, or much more off ball than ever in his career?" Look, LeBron ain't coming off the ball. Now, he's gonna play, more off the ball because Dennis Schroeder's around now. But like, and he liked having Rondo there as an give him an opportunity to play off ball. But like, when you have a guy like LeBron James and he's still this effective this late in his career, guys, he's gonna have the ball in his hands pretty much 90% of the time that he's on the court. So I wouldn't expect that. The post, you can tell he's gradually played more and more in the post as his career has went on. But see, the thing with that is Anthony Davis is down there, and even though Anthony Davis can step out to the corners or get out to the top of the key, when you have Anthony Davis, you kind of want him to be on the block. So
Yeah.
I I don't think we see any more of LeBron in the post or off ball than we did last season.
Yeah, I think the Dennis Schroeder in the starting lineup thing is just so that Braun doesn't have to exert so much brain power.
Yep.
I think if you ever play pickup basketball or if you've ever played any sort of competitive basketball, point guards, like the very, very, very best point guards that you'll ever play with, are guys who are just whose brains are like just constantly working
Mm-hmm.
as the game is going on. They're making reads, looking at advanced passes, and I think it's not that LeBron can't do it. I think it's just it removes that burden away from him when he does that because he's just so good that it's better to like use him in a hyper focused manner because he's so good at scoring, at being one of the greatest players of all time. So simple stuff like Dennis coming up the court, calling the play, making a
Yeah.
read, and then just setting up LeBron however he wants to be set up, even if he's just coming up and giving it to him at half court for him to do what he wants, is that makes a difference because LeBron's one of those guys. It seems like where as soon as he touches the ball and starts walking up the court, he's already trying to figure out where is this guy standing, where is this play, what is the play that we should call, that sort of thing. And removing that burden from them is helpful. And he doesn't have to deal with guys like Patrick Beverly or Javon Carter or fucking Michael Bridges like trying to press him for like
Yep.
90 minutes, 90 feet of the floor, you know. So that's the way I see it.
So this is an interesting one from Clint Carter. The biggest threat in the West, in our opinion, and then is Brooklyn coming out the East if healthy. So I'll jump first with the West. The biggest threats are, I think, the two usual suspects, man. Denver or the Clippers, and I don't know which one. It's easy to say the Clippers, but Denver proved last year they're not a pushover, and Jokic should be better. Murray should be better. The question with Murray is, was that bubble play kind of a fluke, or is he really this good? So that will
Mhm.
be the question for them. And is Michael Porter going to become a consistent third option for them? That's probably that's probably the next question. But for me, it's between the Clippers or Denver. What about you?
So I think if I had to make a tier of a tier of the Western Conference teams, I think Lakers are at the top, and then I think Denver, Portland, the Clippers, the Jazz,
Mm,
and Dallas. I think those five teams are can all be lumped together, and any one of those teams can be the opposing team against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I don't think the gap between the Clippers. I think a lot of people have tried to lump the Clippers next to the Lakers off the strength of the fact that they have Kawhi and Paul George. Um, I don't think the gap between the Clippers and some of these other teams, if there is a gap, is as significant. Utah was a very, very good team last year, and
Mm-hmm.
they were met with a very unfortunate injury to the guy that they added that was supposed to help them go over the top, and Bogdanovich. And he does make a massive difference to that team. Um, Denver, they did lose Jeremy Grant, who is basically their best Braun defender. So we don't know. They may get worse on defense, but better on offense because
Right.
Michael Porter Jr. can shoot the lights out and get hot. But that depends on how Mike Malone, who's a tremendous coach, can manage. Dallas picked up tough guys. They picked up Josh Richardson. They picked up James Johnson. They picked up Wes Iwundu. I don't know what Kristaps Porzingis is going to look like, but they picked up defensive bodies. Like that tough guy thing that the Clippers tried to hold over them. Like they picked up guys to like basically punch back if
Right.
that situation happens. Portland, they were injured all season long. They had no continuity whatsoever. They added the biggest sleeper move, I think, that any team in the West has done by adding Robert Covington.
Mm-hmm.
And they have badly needed a four guy who can defend and make a three, like badly. And Robert Covington was the best catch and shoot player in the bubble. She shot like at 50% or something like that. So I would not sleep on any of those teams. In the end, it always comes down to execution and stuff like that. So I think the biggest threat is a team that's out of that group of five teams, whichever one stays healthy. I would not sleep on Portland. I really won't. I wouldn't because if they're healthy, they're going to be a really really good team. Clippers just have like the two best players probably on the floor against on a nightly basis.
Mm-hmm.
But just like last year, man, we don't know what version of Paul George is going to show up. So when you don't have consistency like that, that ends up being a problem. And so
And
we'll see what happens.
they still don't have a point guard that can create and help for the other guys, right?
Yeah,
Like they got Reggie Jackson, but that's not really what he does. So they lost Trez. There's some issues there. They still have those off the court issues that I'm sure
yes,
with Lou Williams and some of the stars. So, and I think out east, look, Kevin Durant looks great. So I would imagine that's why people are asking about the Nets, and they just beat the crap out of Boston. I mean, it was ugly.
yeah,
I'm a believer in whoever ends up having the best player on the floor ends up having the best opportunity to get to the finals. And that's
sure,
usually how the NBA plays out. So if Kevin Durant is really back, if he's Kevin Durant, he's the best player in the Eastern Conference to me. And
yeah,
if they can stay healthy and Kyrie can actually stay healthy, even though he's had some injury issues the last 3 or 4 years, if they can just
yeah.
stay healthy, they have to come out the East, I assume, right?
So again, like with them, it's I just put them in a group. Like I think them, the Bucks. I would say Miami also, just because Spoelstra is such a good coach and he can figure
Mm-hmm.
out how to beat up teams and stuff like that, and because Bam is still so underrated. Like he's such a defensive machine, he changes the
Yeah.
entire complexion of games. But I would say that Miami, the Bucks, the Nets, Boston, off the strength of the fact that they have young guys, I think there's like probably four teams out the East where depending on how the matchups play out,
Mm-hmm.
can come out of the East. I agree with you in the sense that like when you have the best player on the court, you usually win the game. But the problem is that with Brooklyn, I think they do risk having an issue of like the health issue because Kyrie has not been able to play. Um, he's not been able to stay healthy consistently long enough. And then the other reason why is because sometimes we don't know what version of Kyrie you kind of get. Like
Right.
when we talk historically about that Cavs comeback, part of the reason they went down 3-1 is because Kyrie wasn't playing that great. But then once he was able to get it together, he was able to like what's it called? Like they were able to make that comeback. He was playing out of his mind. Klay
Mm-hmm.
Thompson couldn't guard him. It was pretty tremendous. So I would say there's probably a batch of teams in the Eastern Conference that would probably make it out of the East, but it always depends on health, man. Like the East was also another team. Giannis ends up spraining his ankle in the middle of the playoffs. That was a problem. Um, Miami got injured in the finals. The Dragic getting injured in the finals, that was a problem. Like it's just a bunch of different stuff that you have to always account for. So we'll see what ends up happening in regards to that.
So who do we think is deeper, the Nets or Lakers? That's actually a really
I
good one.
That is a good question.
What do you think?
Let's see. The Nets are going to have they have Levert, they have Jared Allen, they have Kurutz, they have Dinwiddie, they kept Joe Harris, they added Shamit. I would say it's even. I would say it's even. The Nets bench is pretty good. Shamit is actually a really underrated ad for that team. I actually don't know why the Clippers let. I mean, I know that they got Kennard or whatever, but I thought Shamit was pretty good for them when they needed him. A couple of national TV games, he ended up coming up real big, hitting shots and whatnot. But I would say it's close in terms of talent, but in terms of experience, I would say the
Hmm.
Lakers are better than the Nets, if that makes sense. Like I think the Lakers have more guys that are championship tested. Like Jared Allen has never played serious games in the playoffs. Levert has never
Right.
played serious games, high stakes games in the playoffs. Many of the guys on the Nets team have not played high stakes basketball in the playoffs. DeAndre Jordan, even as a starter, hasn't gone that far. Tayshaun Prince hasn't gone that far. Dinwiddie hasn't gone that far. Joe Harris hasn't gone that far. So they're going to be relying on somebody like Steve Nash to get him to what's it called, like coach them through that process and stuff like
Hmm.
that. D'Antoni, their offensive coach, has historically flamed out over and over again in the playoffs, in the early rounds or in the Western Conference playoffs. Um, so I would say talent wise they're even, but I
Hmm.
would say experience wise the Lakers have a serious edge on that team.
Yeah, I mean, Katie and Kyrie obviously they've been to the finals. They've won a championship, or Katie's won multiple championships. So from that point, they have experience. The rest of the guys, who knows? Like the Nets haven't been good in a while, and so they kind of end up doing what the Lakers did a season ago, where they go from being mediocre or bad for a stretch to all of a sudden getting these two really good players. And if Kevin Durant is back, well, then Kevin Durant is back, and it looks like he just
Yeah,
may very well be. In terms of the depth of the rosters, I they probably are relatively even, but I just think if you're at that point, if your depth is even, then what do you look at? Coaching staffs? Well, I'd give the
yeah,
edge to Vogel's coaching staff over, even though I think D'Antoni's a fine coach. Nash is a rookie coach. There's a lot of new stuff going on over there in Brooklyn. But then beyond that, if you look at just the two duos, I'd take LeBron and Anthony Davis over Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and that
yeah,
that's not. I think with that, it's almost like the Kawhi Paul George thing, where I think Anthony
yes,
Davis, LeBron, and KD are all kind of in similar tier. I think Kyrie is the odd man out in
yeah.
that regard, and same thing with Paul George, where he's probably the odd man out. But I take our duo over theirs.
Yeah, I would say that like if last season they did that thing where they compared the two duos to each other, and
Hmm.
they said that if you had to rank those four together, you'd go like LeBron, Kawhi, PG, and then AD
Right.
in that order. If you had to do it again this year, you're probably going LeBron, maybe AD, and
Hmm.
then Kawhi, and then Paul George. And for sure against the Nets, you're doing the same thing. The other thing is our top two guys, assuming they're healthy and whatnot, are just our top two guys are far and away like better. Like I understand that Kyrie can score in a phone booth. I'm a big Kyrie fan also,
Yep.
but I've also seen him shoot his team out of games. So it's not like it's not that he's not capable of being like an MVP caliber style player, but a lot of times when he has to get to that point, it starts getting a little strenuous on the team itself. His shot selection starts getting a little sketchy. Um, that can affect the rhythm of the team too, as well as they're
Hmm.
just sitting there watching him isolate. Kevin Durant's not that kind of guy. Kevin Durant's usually one move and go, does his pull up. He's a
Right.
world class shooter, and so that it doesn't affect the team as much. He knows how to play within the flow of the offense, and so, but it'll be good, man. It's good. I'm happy Kevin Durant's back. I'm happy that he's looking good. I wouldn't agree all the way that he looks exactly the same that he used to because it seems like there's a little bit of his bounce is lacking. Like he looks good when he's like driving to the lane and nobody's going to try and challenge him when
Right.
he goes to the rim. But once the regular season starts, these teams are like, yeah, we're not letting you just take layups on us, and he has to deal with some of those collisions. I think it'll look a little bit more different. Um, and that's not to say that he's not a good player. It's just the level of competition will dictate how good you look. And so Anthony Davis may look really great right now, going 6 or 7 from three, but I'm
Right.
sure teams are going to be like, yeah, we're not going to let you take these threes anymore because we know you can make them. And then it'll look a little bit different, you know? So that's the way I kind of see it. But it's good. It's just good to have him back. And I'm very interested to see if Kyrie's going to be using Sage in every arena in every
So,
pregame.
all right, I want to get to that since you brought it up, but give me a second because I want to. We have a Pacers fan in here, which is crazy, but he
Oh
said,
shit! Awesome.
Pacers fan here, but love all things basketball. So cheers, AD looking like a different kind of monster than even last year. So OTDA, shout out to you, man. We appreciate you joining a Lakers live stream, but yeah, Anthony Davis does look like a monster, hitting 6 or 7 threes. But hold on, let me get back to the Sage thing. So, a lot of people saw that, and they, obviously the typical Kyrie jokes and all that stuff. Um, some Lakers fans may not know Phil Jackson obviously
Yeah.
believed in using Sage. He did it. So it's and a lot of people beyond basketball believe in it. I've had ancestors that have done it. The cleanse things, and so whether or not Kyrie was doing it, for because of spirituality, or he was doing it to troll because he knew the cameras would be on and people would have something to say, I have no idea because I've never seen an NBA player sage a arena.
Yeah,
So, but they beat the crap out of Boston,
they did.
so maybe it
They
worked.
did. Yeah, I mean, the only reason I brought it up is because I thought it was funny. 'Cause Sage, even in Indian culture, sage is something we don't use it as much like that,
Hmm.
but it has some spiritual elements and stuff like that to it. So sage, as well as other things, have been used for cleansing purposes. Phil Jackson famously did it in a locker room, I think, prior to the players showing up to the locker room. And then when the
Hmm.
players asked him about it, they're like, What are you doing?" He's like, I need to clean up all the bad juju that's going on with this team and the energy that's around this team. So that's why it was so funny. But it's just Kyrie doing it in arena cracks me up so much because it's just like I was like, I know, maybe he believes in it, but I was just like, you got like, I want to see you do this everywhere else because I mean, obviously he played at Boston, so is he going to do it in Cleveland? Is he going to do it like
What?
in every arena that he goes to?
What?
It just cracks me up, and
The
he's
real
just a
question
funny,
is:
funny guy.
Is Adam Silver going to send out like a note to all the teams that you can't have Sage? Like, I've never seen a player do. Like, I knew Phil Jackson did it, but like I've just
Yeah.
never seen anyone do it with the cameras rolling and he's walking around with the thing in his hand, and I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a story.
Yeah, and I just want to follow up. I see I see the message in the chat from OOTDA. So you're right. KD did go, but I did watch some of that Celtics Nets game a little bit earlier. I won't say that I watched too much of it. He did go body to body in Boston, and he did finish. But my concern with his explosion is not on the offensive end. He's a world class shooter, so he's going to find ways to score. My more concern was on the defensive end. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a play specifically where um, there was a pass made to Jalen Brown, and I want to say it was on the baseline or right above the baseline, and he attacked Katie. Katie was the guy that was in between him and the rim, and when Katie had to just do like that Draymond-esque style verticality jump, he couldn't get up, and so Brown kind of finished around and drew a foul. He had to foul him or whatever it was, and that's not an indication of what it's going to be like Katie. But taking that sort of regular beating over and over again is what I'm concerned about. Like, is he able to handle that kind of explosion over and over again on both ends? Because if he's going to be playing the four for the Nets, he's going to have to deal with stuff like that. And Boston doesn't play a traditional four. Like, they don't play an AD or a LaMarcus Aldridge or a guy like that, but some teams do. And KD may shoot really, really well, but then he's got to kind of wrestle with guys down low too as well. So that's sort of what I'm looking at. But offensively, he looked great, man. He pulled up from like 35 feet or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So he looked great. So I'm rooting for his success. More than his success, I'm rooting for him to stay healthy the whole season
Yeah.
because we've seen that guys who get Achilles tears, especially explosive guys, they have other issues sometimes that happen, like quads, hamstrings, that sort
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. So I just want him to stay healthy. He's a great personality for the NBA. He is top two in on NBA Twitter trolling fans. and it's just good to see the best players be healthy. So I hope he remains healthy and successful.
So shout out to Bentley for this comment because I was trying everything in me not to laugh while Vinay was talking. Street saying Bill Russell smelled the sage from his house. I mean, that's hilarious. You guys are nuts, man. You guys are absolutely nuts. I knew that Kyrie Sage stuff was gonna be a story. I just knew it.
He's a character, man. I hope Nets fans. I don't know if Nets fans jump in on these things, but I hope Nets fans enjoy it, man, because it's fun, man. It's fun when players have personalities and they get to be
Mm-hmm.
themselves, even if it's weird or if it's goofy to other people. So it just cracks me up when I see all that kind of stuff.
Well, guys, we appreciate you joining the live stream. Vinay, did you have anything else you wanted to add on the recap?
Nope, I'm excited for regular season, and I just want to extend a very, very warm thank you to all the folks who are on the post game with us,
Mm-hmm.
um, Lakers or not Lakers. I appreciate you guys very, very much. I hope you guys are able to join us for post game stuff. We do watch other basketball games that are non Lakers
Mm-hmm.
related, so we do like to chat about it. It's just obviously we're Laker fans, so that's why we do. I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope everybody stays healthy. And I'm looking forward to a good, healthy, positive season for the NBA.
Well said, man. Thank you guys for joining us in this the post game and the preseason or preseason recap. Make sure you're following Vinay. You see his Twitter handle down there at vkillum. Follow me, Alex Holling, and then the channel Laker Central 365. So we'll catch up with you guys Tuesday. So we'll talk to you then. You've been listening or watching to Laker Central.